When you think of movie soundtracks, what do you usually think of? Do you think of the deep dark strings of Jaws? Mystical blues of Blade Runner? Or the gigantic orchestral suite of Star Wars? These soundtracks are classic for a reason. You cannot think of the movie without the soundtrack, nor the soundtrack without the movie. Not only does the music accompany the movie itself and get the audience excited for the journey to come, but it becomes a part of the movie as a whole, ingrained within the narrative. The other day I went and saw A Portrait of a Lady on Fire, directed by Céline Sciamma. One of the most remarkable things about the movie, without spoiling it, was that it had no soundtrack. There was no score associated with the film, only the sound of the movie's environment. Usually I'm a sucker for a well-made, highly creative soundtracks, as you could tell. But this time I found the movie better off without a soundtrack. This got me thinking about the role soundtracks play within our modern blockbuster-driven box office, especially with their relationship to the narrative. Consider this a case study on movie soundtracks and how they shape the movie as well as influence an audience's reaction. Today I'll be looking at 3 movies, one with a soundtrack that complements the narrative and adds to the story, another with a poor soundtrack that adds nothing valuable to the audience's engagement, and a third with no soundtrack to explore how a lack of music may influence how an audience interacts with the story.
Make him stay, Merv. Don't let me leave, Merv. Don't let me leave, Merv. No! 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 No!
First, let's take a look at Christopher Nolan's space opera Interstellar. Nolan worked closely with composer Hans Zimmer, who decided to revolve the score around the movie's main relationship between Cooper and his daughter Murphy.
I sat down and I wrote this piece really about what it feels like to be a father and what it feels like to have a son, and I was writing about my son.
When he played me the piece of music which became the basis for the entire score, I thought it was absolutely perfect and captured the emotional qualities of the film that I wanted.
The intimate twinkling bars of the piano become the theme of the father and the daughter, which represents the close relationship and gives the audience insight into their tight bond. The audience can feel through the sound of the piano the strength of their relationship and how much they care about one another. This theme allows the audience to become more emotionally attached with their bond, and thus the actions of the movie, which revolve around Cooper's desire to save Murphy. Zimmer's score is epic, which serves to emphasize the stakes at hand within the movie. It also reflects the dangers and obstacles in which Cooper goes through to help his daughter. A perfect example is the song Mountains, which mimics the ticking of a clock to remind the audience that Cooper's journey is a race against time. Which increase the stakes and build the tension in ways that the editing or screenplay itself could not. In another scene, the sweeping orchestral score plays over Cooper's daring attempt to recapture his cruise ship while it spins out of control. In this case, Zimmer's soundtrack adds another layer to depth in Nolan's overall story. The score not only helps immerse the audience and guide them along the journey, but it also complements the themes of the narrative, including loneliness, desperation, and human ingenuity. I like to believe there are 2 categories of soundtracks, those that help the movie and those that do not. One of those I believe that do not is 2013's Great Gatsby, directed by Luhrmann. The soundtrack is great in exemplifying the access and vibrancy and moral corruptibility of the Roaring '20s in a modern, newfound way with the help of Jay-Z, Lana Del Rey, and Beyonce. But besides that, it's just bland and lackluster. Like the movie and the era set in, the score is very flashy and dramatic, but almost to the point of excessiveness. It fits Luhrmann's personal style, as you see in other movies like Chicago. Rather than enhance the story of Gatsby and his troubled relationship and past with Daisy, the score distracts the audience and pulls them away from the emotional core of the narrative. The score's modern approach is a little bit out of place, and within the context of the story, just does not make sense. The songs, rather than work in tangent with the background to assist the actors in the script and hammering home the narrative, the score does one thing that it should never do: remind the audience that they're watching a movie. Like, personally, when I was watching the movie for the first time in high school, I asked myself, Jay-Z, why? Like, that doesn't make sense. It just completely threw me off and caught me by surprise, forcing me to reinvest myself in the story, which I should not have been pulled out of in the first place. Soundtracks are typically non-diegetic, which means they play over the movie, and the characters do not nor cannot interact with them. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, as mentioned earlier, has no soundtrack whatsoever. It does include music, but the songs being played are what is called diegetic sound, or coming from the movie's environment or characters themselves. For example, there was a scene where a character was playing piano, which of course the audience can hear, but the characters within the movie can also hear. Without a score serving as an audio overlay, diegetic sound takes center stage and are given much more importance, compared to a movie that mixes them with a score. Like other movies such as The Quiet Place, Portrait of a Lady on Fire uses sound to its advantage. Sound in this movie serves as another character in a way, that it reflects the movie's main conflicts around the characters' journeys and overall relationship. Throughout much of the movie, characters are placed around fireplaces, and the audience alongside the characters are able to hear the crackling of the wood and the burning of the embers. This burning is meant to illustrate the desires of each of the characters and their relationship, which is full of burning passion. Contrastingly, many of the movie's most important scenes take place on the beach or near water, in which the ocean's currents and crashing waves can be heard from the shore. These waves, I believe, represent complacency and the society that frowns upon the relationship between the young women. These motifs, which would have been otherwise drowned out or given less importance when paired with a score, serve to strengthen the movie's main conflict and emphasize the struggles of each character. Like a score, these sounds serve to guide the audience along and influence how the audience receives the scene and emotionally interacts with it. While I believe Interstellar to be a perfect example of how to use a soundtrack, Portrait of a Lady on Fire is a perfect example of how to leave one out. Of course, not every movie needs a soundtrack to keep an audience engaged and emotionally involved. The screenplay and characters do that just fine. However, every movie should use audio to its advantage to complement the narrative and drive along the audience. Audio in itself is an art form that should be taken seriously as an element to the overall story. So if you want to make a movie with a soundtrack, just please make it good. Like, this is me asking personally. I need more soundtracks to listen to on Spotify, so